Hi, welcome to another episode of Fighters Backstage. Today, we're going to talk about shin guards. I'll tell you which ones are better to choose when you're just starting your journey with combat sports. Should you go for the elastic ones or the ones with a rigid foam mold? Stay tuned and enjoy the video. The first and most popular type of shin guard, especially chosen by beginners, is the elastic shin guard. These are guards made from polyester material with additional cushioning foam in the shin area and the foot protection zone. So by choosing this model of shin guard, you're actually ensuring protection for both your shin and your foot. Why is it mainly chosen by beginners? Because in the early stages of combat sports training, you'll primarily be focusing on perfecting your technique. These won't be training sessions where you'll be striking with full force yet, so absorbing the impact of your strikes isn't your top priority at this stage. Your priority should be that the shin guard is lightweight, comfortable, fits well to the shape of your foot and shin, and most importantly, that it doesn't cost too much. Because at the beginning, you really don't know how much you'll get into combat sports, you don't know how long you'll want to train, so I think there's no need to buy expensive models at first. I think a flexible shin guard like this will do the job just fine. This type of shin guard also works very well for training where you'll mainly be focusing on ground fighting. That's because shin guards with a hard shell tend to cause a bit more discomfort during ground training, whereas these guards are very flexible and adapt to the shape of your foot and shin. They are lightweight and really barely noticeable during training. So for ground training, they will definitely be much more comfortable than shin guards with a hard foam shell. To sum up, who are these types of shin guards good for? Primarily for beginners who aren't yet training with full striking power but already want to protect their shins and feet from abrasions and initial minor injuries at this stage of training. Also for people who practice ground techniques, who often transition to ground positions. In that case, protection from strikes and kicks isn't as important. What really matters much more is comfort during use. The next type of protectors are those with foam molds. This foam mold is present both in the shin area and in the foot protection area. This type of protector provides a very high level of impact force absorption. They are rigid, they no longer adapt as much to the shape of your body, so they may be a bit less comfortable during ground training. However, for stand-up training, especially in kickboxing or Muay Thai, where there are a lot of kicks and they often have a lot of impact force. However, when it comes to stand-up training, for example, in kickboxing or Muay Thai, where kicks are used very frequently and have a lot of power, definitely this type of shin guard will be the best solution because they provide a very high level of protection both for you and your training partner. Of course, this type of shin guard will be somewhat more expensive than the ones I showed you a moment ago because here the construction is more complex and the materials used are more expensive to produce. So this kind of shin guard can be 3 or 4 times more expensive than flexible ones, which is why they're often chosen at a later stage of training when you already know you want to practice these combat sports. When you're really into the training, at that point, when you move on to the stage where sparring begins, it's a good idea to equip yourself with this type of shin guard. Unless, of course, you're training stand-up styles like kickboxing or Muay Thai, from the very beginning, there will be a lot of kicking. Often these kicks can be quite powerful, so in that case you can choose this type of shin guard right from the start because it's not just about protection when delivering kicks but also about protection when blocking them. So here it's about ensuring safety not only for your opponent but also, and perhaps most importantly, for yourself. Regardless of which type of shin guard you choose, whether foam or those with a rigid foam mold, make sure that the shin guards meet European safety standards. This is very important because these standards ensure that the guard absorbs the impact force to the proper degree. To obtain such a certification, a series of laboratory tests must be conducted where every area of the shin guard is checked, the energy absorption force is measured, and only those guards that meet these standards can be marked with this certification. How can you check this? Well, the shin guard should have a CE marking or possibly a label indicating that the guard meets the European safety standard and specifying which standard it is. If you choose a shin guard that meets such a standard, then you can be sure it will provide you with proper protection, not only protection against impacts, but also the right stability during training. Because this standard also checks whether the fastening system is stable enough so that the shin guard doesn't twist or shift during training. So pay attention to that. Choosing shin guards that meet these kinds of standards is definitely in your best interest. Sellers often might not mention that the shin guard doesn't meet the standard, but it's in your best interest to check this yourself. If you decide to go with Bushido shin guards, which I of course encourage, you can be sure that all the shin guards we offer meet these safety standards. However, if you choose models from other manufacturers, then it's worth paying attention to this. Of course, besides the two models I showed you today, there are various other versions available. There are protectors that lack this part of the foot guard. There are protectors that only provide protection for the foot, the so-called kickers. So these are already certain variations. However, my goal was to show you the difference between flexible protectors and those with a rigid foam cast. Of course, the final choice is up to you. I hope that the information I've provided will help you a bit in making that decision. If you have any additional questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below this video. I'll do my best to answer every question.